Welcome to Dan Really Likes Wine, brought to you by Norman Goodfellows, and welcome to a spot I haven't been to for a little while, but of which I have very, very good memories. This is Bellinis in Illovo in Johannesburg. It's part bistro, part quiet local, all cool, relaxed, fun place to hang out, have a good meal and a great glass of wine. And it's somewhere going back, this is probably 20 years now. I used to have not infrequent gatherings with two very entertaining people. One, Mike Hazeman, the cricket commentator, who was in that phase where he was looking a little less like Billy Idol and a little more like Jerry Springer, and the other Daryl Bristow-Bovey, one of South Africa's finest writers, Finding Endurance, his new novel I just got for my birthday. It is brilliant, and he's also involved in a number of screenplays, just a very gifted writer, and we'd have many, many enjoyable hours going through a lunch or a dinner, shooting the breeze, trying some fine wine, and just enjoying some splendid company. And that's kind of a hallmark of this particular space, which makes me very happy to be back, and so that's what I'm going to be doing over the course of today's show. But while I'm kicking back, enjoying the menu and trying some wine, some travel for you to do. A little later on in the show, I'll be over at Marble and meeting a guy called Edouard, and in between trying not to trade punches over rugby, discovering from a Frenchman a wonderful Burgundian story of not just terrific wine, but of a great sense of redemption for an old French family. It's a really lovely story with wine to match. First of all, though, recently the Stellenbosch Wine Routes team were up in town together with a whole pile of top winemakers, and they took me down to Soweto, to Orlando West, to hang out at Just Badella and meet an absolutely fantastic home for wine and a pretty awesome guy who runs the place. We're a long way from Stellenbosch tonight, but it feels like home for us Stellenbosch winemakers, because Soweto is providing a very, very hospitable reception as some of the finest winemakers in South Africa touch down in a part of the country that more and more is becoming a home to fine wine and people who love it.
I just fell in love with the wine. And I think for me, it was more on the culture of wine and the curiosity of all the wines. And we started reading about wines. And the fact that South Africa is one of the top producers in the world. But I find that it's very weird that not all South Africans are excited about that. So I took it upon myself to make sure that we get people excited about wine, particularly the culture of wine and exploring wines. So we spend a lot of time in Cape Town to go and visit farms, create relationships. But more importantly, we realize that the market, the biggest market is up here in Gauteng. The biggest market is in the black middle class that's emerging. And so it's a huge opportunity for us to grow from a business point of view and from just the knowledge and the culture of wine. So it's quite exciting. So one of the ideas that we came up with is to actually create a Soweto wine village. And for me, what's happening tonight, it's a signal of what is going to happen in the future. I mean, on a Tuesday night, this place is packed. In winter, right? It's amazing. So for me, the industry needs to wake up as well to say, listen, there's something there. I mean, Soweto is a very interesting location because it's almost like where trends start. Whatever happens in Soweto as a township, it's just a matter of time. It's going to happen in Guamashu, it's going to happen in Pretoria. I mean, we have guests here coming all the way from Pretoria and Soshanguve. And they said, you know what, we have to go because there's nothing like that. And I mean, you see here, it's beautiful people, and they're here to spend money and enjoy very good wine. So that's what this is all about. And for me, I'm very excited. So it's very interesting because you've got the middle class, and it's a huge number. And they tend to gravitate towards brands that they know and they're comfortable with. I always say, buying a wine that you don't know, it's a very, very risky exercise. It can spoil the entire evening. So then people tend to buy brands that they're comfortable with. And they know, if I buy this brand, I'm not going to have issues. And then, of course, you've got the lower in terms of price wines, not the premium wines, but I'm talking about below 200 rands a bottle, and those are massive. And then, of course, the interesting aspect now that we're seeing is they're ready to drink the canned wine. It's wine. And for me, that's our market. They're already drinking wine. Yes, they're not drinking their premium wines, but it's wine, right? So there's that category as well. And then, of course, you've got the premium market. And my worry is we're not drinking premium wines purely because we don't understand them. So we need to do a lot of education in that space to get people to be comfortable. We need to do a lot of tasting to get people to taste different wines and toy around wine with pairing, African cuisine and play with their wine. So that is not happening. That is missing. The premium wine and giving people an opportunity to taste a lot of wines and really explore. So there are brands in this part of town that we know they fly off the shelves, and people know that if I buy this brand, I know what I'm getting. But because I'm a wine person, there's many other wines that we should be experiencing, but we don't have that opportunity because some of the wine farms are not in Soweto. I mean, you go into the restaurants here, you find a very limited range of wines. I mean, they also, because they run a business, they stick to tried and tested wines. So there's that opportunity of exploring, but also making sure that we educate a lot. So I'm excited that, if I may announce, the Cape Wine Academy is opening a school in Soweto. So that for me is exciting, and I was in the leading front to make sure that I reach out to the industry. And for me, what Stellenbosch Wine Route has done, it's actually amazing. And on a Tuesday, like I said, and I mean, this is amazing. We need to grow our domestic market consumption. We need to go into the premium space. We need to do a lot of education, and we need to get them young. We need to really, because if you look at our consumption, we're not consuming as much wine as we produce, which is a bit odd. But it's a signal, also an opportunity that we need to do a lot of education. And for me, Soweto is ready for that. Definitely ready. There are places like Just Patela. We're opening a Soweto wine village. There's Sakumzi. I mean, the Sakumzi for me and the whole of Vilakazi, it's a lost opportunity for the wine industry. You have an average of 1,000 international tourists visiting Soweto every day. And if they don't book Cape Town, they go back home having lost out on the opportunity to experience South African wines. So why are we not having the whole wine industry look at Vilakazi, look at Sakumzi, look at 1947, and guess what? All the owners, all of them are here. So we support each other in the industry, right? So we need to get more of the wines into Soweto, into Vilakazi. So we tap into all these internationals that come to Vilakazi. And of course, there are the domestic tourists coming from Limpopo. I just mentioned friends of mine came all the way from Pretoria tonight on a Tuesday. I mean, there are a lot of people coming from Mpumalanga and other provinces who always come to Gauteng, but they don't make it to the Western Cape. So we need to make sure we tap into that market and sell some wine.
Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity. It's a great evening. And I wish to first welcome everybody who's here, all the Sowetans, all our customers and patriots, but most importantly, our guests and friends, the Stellenbosch Wine Route. Just Padela was formed in 2012. The history and the background is informed by what I will describe as a township vibe. And I'm very and extremely happy and thrilled that today we are celebrating our very first event with Stellenbosch Wine Route in the heart of Soweto. Just Padela's got 2 restaurants, but the heartbeat is where you are now. And it was formed in 2012, and the essence of the restaurant was always going to be a platform for good wines, especially wines of South African origin. But we also do lovely meat, as you'll experience through the night, that the meat that we provide is of highest quality. So Just Padela is a combination of wine and meat, and of course, good friends. This is a brand that says we are of quality. It doesn't matter that you are in the neighborhood or in the township. Our vision is to make sure that whoever comes here or who has never visited us, when he comes, he gets experience. And that experience is formed by what we call Jaspadela wines, which are mainly from the winelands. Jaspadela meat, which is from South Africa, and Jaspadela heritage and culture, which is a variety of music, artists, and everything. So Jaspadela represents what we call South African culture. Wine is a very, I would say, a very sophisticated product. And the reason I'm saying it's sophisticated, wine revolves around what we call etiquette. There's a way in which you nose it, there's a way in which you taste it with your palate, there's a way in which you look at the color and look at the structure of the wine. So there are many different variables that makes wine to be an enjoyable drink. This event is what I will call an inaugural of many events to come. I know as wine producers will leave Soweto today, they will leave it with a very indelible mark. They'll leave Soweto with something that says, please, maybe let's revisit. It has always been my passion to make Soweto a wine destination.
So not just an enlightening evening in Soweto, but a very entertaining one as well. There is a growing force of wine lovers in Soweto and surrounds. Things like a Soweto wine village on the cards, more brands having a presence in restaurants, and really growing the genuine excitement and interest in wine across the greater Orlando and surrounds. It means it's a place I'm going to be heading back to more often, and that we're going to see a lot more of South African wine in it. It's always lovely to see the South African wine story broaden. Now, on the way into Bellinis, you might have spotted a rather large Backsburg sign, and that always makes me smile, not just because I enjoy the wine so much, but because Backsburg is where I got married. It's a very nostalgic space for me, and one that has terrific memories. And amongst the wine list, some of the Backsburg Pump House Shiraz, you'll see the branding's changed a lot. If you remember Backsburg from 5-6 years ago, the Pump House Shiraz is that very simple, clear blue label. It's now moved to one that's got a little bit more of an avant-garde touch to it. This is Andrew Harris and the team working together with Simon Back. What hasn't changed is what's on the inside, and that's really good value wine that brings back, as I said, great memories. And it's part of a Bellinis menu and wine list that I've enjoyed for many years. And it's always an act of simplicity, but very enjoyable simplicity. They do a Dijon fillet here that I order just about every single time. And as you flick through it, you've got stuff that really speaks to having a simple, uncluttered lunch, one I've had many times here with the great Solly Kramer, one of the icons of the South African liquor industry, whether it's a simple Prego roll or a salad, or just something that helps you to wash down the wine. And it might not be the Backsburg. Having a look through the list that they've got here, there's some of the Hermanus Pieters van saying Kleinboot, and when you can say that fluently, you know you've had enough of it. If you're a Vergelegen fan or a Guardian Peak fan, a Venologist fan, they're not a huge number of wines, but they've been chosen very carefully, and I think most of them are favourites of a clientele that is often seen time and again coming back. And if you're a white wine fan, they've got some of the Beauchard Finlayson Sauvignon Blanc, which often sits in the shadow of a Chardonnay, but is always well worth exploring. The Springfield Albarino, or that Iona Sauvignon Blanc that's got that 7% hint of Semillon, just to give it a little bit of balance. And balance is a lovely way of speaking to Bellinis. It's a lovely balance between terrific food, a nice wine list, and just a really warm welcome. It's a lovely team here, and one who always look after us superbly. And that applies to another of my favourite spots for lunch, heading not too far from here, just down the road to Marble in Rosebank. And it was to Marble that I went quite recently, not just for the fabulous food, but also to meet two men called Edouard, one in person and the other through a bottle, and discover a Burgundian story that's full of redemption and some very nice wine. It's a tale of two Edouards at Marble today, two French Edouards as the pronunciation would suggest. Edouard Delauney is one of Burgundy's top brands, a brand we find in South Africa thanks to Hervé Delabesse and his Premier Cru wines. And he's invited me along to lunch today to share an occasion with Edouard Morisset, heads up exports, mad keen about rugby and has a stint in South Africa to his name.
So, I mean, the story of this brand is really what attracted me to it. It's a perfect Burgundian renaissance. It's one of the most prestigious brands that started in 1893, disappeared just when they were short of 100 years, and then got revived 25 years later by the son, who, by passion, came back to Burgundy and came back into the prime, came back into the limelight. And that story attracted me, and I went, tasted the wine, loved the wine, and decided it was time to share them with South Africa. So the South African market is getting a taste for Burgundy. It's really been not only for the connoisseur, but we also have a range that helps to introduce people to Burgundy, to the beauty of Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, coming from where Chardonnay and Pinot Noir come from. So it's a matter of discovering and traveling without moving in a way. Rhône was part of Burgundy some time ago, centuries ago. And that's where the Duke of Burgundy cornered the Rhône wine and decided, nope, here's Burgundy, moving on. You can't corner a Bourguignon, that's for sure.
Guys, very warm welcome. Good afternoon. The majority of you will remember our Rioja celebration. And there's a very similar format where we are lucky enough to taste some fabulous wine from countries that make wine almost as well as South Africa does. But where last time we had our South African Frenchman. This time we have a French South African, and I say that deliberately, and you'll find out why in a moment. It's a tale of two Edouards today, one of them being our brand, our home of really some outstanding Burgundy. If you haven't had this before, I think you're going to be very pleasantly rewarded. And our other Edouard is actually partly South African. So we will talk a lot about wine today. But Edouard, firstly, welcome. It's lovely to have you in South Africa and have you here to visit. And it wouldn't have taken much persuasion because you know this part of the world broadly rather well because you had a stint in Stellenbosch with Molyneux and with Coin Rock.
Yes, thank you for the introduction. Yeah, I do feel half South African after these 6 months. No, it was beautiful, and it's always a pleasure to be back here and share a bit of home now with you guys. So yeah, I feel really lucky to be able to have this time and open this fantastic wine with you. So looking forward to this tasting. We have September on the left, and September is a wine which we consider as our, open door to Burgundy. We always want to have a, like we say in Champagne, you're judged by the quality of the brut. It's the same. We want to have a Bourgogne. It's a regional wine, which is a blend between 3 different regions of Burgundy. So we get the freshness and acidity from Chablis. It goes in stainless steel tank, no malo, to really keep this tension and minerality. The heart of the blend is coming from the Côte de Bol, and then the fruitiness comes from the Mâconnais area, which you got more tropical, riper fruit. So what we thought is that at an entry level, to have a balanced wine and something that fully represents the different characteristics of Burgundy, by having a blend of a third, we will get an expression of Chardonnay that encompass what the Burgundy is. Then we can dive into more precision and zoom out to some terroir-specific wine. But this wine is super important for us, and also we're talking about price point. Burgundy is quite high in price, and what we want is to make it accessible in every aspect. To have a wine that's rewarding, to have a price that can be a wine that you open with friends without any complex, saying, this is the wine in my cellar, I don't want to open it. So we want Burgundy to be accessible, and Septembre is our version of what the Bourgogne Chardonnay should be, and an everyday drink,
People at the table will know fairly well, I think, but it's worth repeating, especially for the guys who are going to be watching this on camera later, for whom an understanding of Burgundy is often quite elementary. Just run through this sense, which is quite different to South Africa, of having these plots of land, sharing vineyards, different parts of Burgundy, how that works, why you're bringing in grapes and where they are, and how this all comes together.
So the knowledge of the Burgundian terroir is something the most important when you think about elaborating a blend like this one, which is, the Burgundian landscape is classified like a pyramid. You have regional Burgundy, where you can blend these different regions like we have in this wine. Then you have village appellation, Premier Cru, and Grand Cru. And at the level of region, you need to know what each terroir brings to the blend to make the perfect blend. And Laurent's been in Burgundy for or Laurent's family for generations. So there is a knowledge of terroir among people making wine in Burgundy that's really high. Like a real focus on the personality of each, and then it's a relationship with people to be able to make the perfect blend. So I think to do that, you first need to understand the place, then meet the good people, and then make the good choice into the blend.
All right, well, let's jump onto the Chablis. You've got some pretty rave reviews for your first wine, so second one's going to need to do a job. Tell us about the Chablis and what we're getting out of that one.
So Chablis is probably a region within Burgundy that's the most obvious. People know Chablis quite widely as a style that's always assimilate with minerality, tension, freshness. The soil of Chablis are limestone from a special era called Kimmeridien. It's usually one of the words that people remember because even if you don't know much about geology, it's so typical to the area, and it gives the wine a unique personality. You probably won't find the warmth and the fruit complexity that you can find further south, but you have wines that are of incredible freshness, tension, and you can feel the minerality on the soil. It's white soil, and when you walk into the vineyard, you find those shell, like a lot of fossil. You do feel like life and vibrancy into the wine. I think you are describing moment of the year. Chablis, a warm summer day where you grill some seafood on a braai, no?
Yes.
so that would be the moment to drink the Chablis.
Before we go into all of the reds as a whole, just a quick sense of where you feel Pinot Noir is within Burgundy, because I think if we look at South Africa, and we've got a lot of very established wine people in this room, I think we've seen an extraordinary leap forward in the quality of South African Pinot Noir and the style, the approach. And one of the things, and Carrie, I think we said this on the show not that long ago, where for a very long time we would always cage a Himmel wine as being a Burgundy style. This is our Burgundy. And over the last few years, there's very much been, I think, in the wine community, this is wine on its own terms. It is Himmel wine. We're not trying to be Burgundy because we have our own identity. So we've seen that evolution. I think it's been a really important one for our industry. You've been going for just a little longer over in Burgundy. Where do you see where Pinot Noir is now? Has there been a considerable sense of evolution, or have we been seeing something relatively similar over the last reasonable period of time?
When you talk about period of time in Burgundy, we're talking about centuries. So I haven't seen it.
Let's say in your lifetime.
Yeah, no, in my lifetime, definitely. I think the Burgundy is always in movement. I think when you see it from outside, you can think it's not moving. It's stuck in the appellation system. But there are people from all over the world. There are winemakers that travel all over the world. There is a partnership within the School of Viticulture and Winemaking in Bonn with South Africa, for example. And all the winemakers that are today running the most famous estate have been traveling all around the world. So I think what we cannot take off Burgundy, it's more than 1,000 years of history and know-how and precision into knowing what land is special for and expressing it. We define it. The monks started to say this row are different from this 3-1, and today we probably we acknowledge that and we evolve with the time. I don't think there has been a better time to be in Burgundy. The wines from the past are tasting beautifully. The wine we're showing today are beautiful and bright, and I'm sure that people from next generation will know how to use the knowledge will be transmitted. But I think Burgundian Pinot Noir today is probably a reference in terms of sense of place. People are today more aware of what Burgundy is, and what we hope is that they're happy to engage with Burgundy and discover all this specificity. So we've been really lucky in recent years to have I think an evolution in the market and taste. People are looking for this freshness, for these wines that are a bit more elegant. And I think Burgundy has always focused on doing that. So today the spot is there, but the tradition has been there for 1,000 years.
Which leads me to believe that much with our white wines, you have with our first wine here on the left, delivered something that defies what the price point says it should be. I think most of us will agree, out of most of the red wines, when you drink one that's not made well, it's often the Pinot Noir that's the most difficult to stomach. You've got here a Pinot Noir from Burgundy. It's selling here in South Africa at 320 Rand. I think on the current exchange rate, that's €4. So it's an extraordinary price and great value. I'm dying to taste it, but I'm also really interested to get your interpretation of it. So while we have a crack at that one on the left, introduce us to the first of our reds.
So we are with Septembre Pinot Noir. So it's the same philosophy that we have with the Chardonnay. Our intention is to give the best version of what we think Burgundy can deliver at this price point. And we apply the same idea by looking for the balance, and to find that we look at the terroir and what they bring us. I would definitely say that this version of Pinot Noir is probably a bit more modern, a bit more fruit forward than what I think people have in mind when they think about Burgundy. And the fruit profile can sometimes be quite austere and acidic, serious wine, when we are looking for wine that's rewarding and like same than the Chardonnay, that's giving you a lot of fruit. And for that, with Pinot Noir, we are looking more at the southern part of Burgundy. So how with the Chardonnay, we are looking at the element of freshness coming from Chablis. Here we are looking for the element of brightness and crunchiness in the fruit coming from the southern part. So it's more Côte de Beaune, the Couchois, which is the Côte Chalonnaise, so 40-50 kilometers south of Beaune, and a little tiny bit from the Beaujolais, where you have a warmer profile, and also a slightly different soil that brings wines that are probably more on the fruity side than on the linear. So we try to combine that and have a wine that just a really quaffable present, like drink and enjoy, especially on the structure tannin. We want a wine that's round, and I think when you will have tried all the reds, there is a lot of care in making wines that have a really pleasant mouthfeel. They are both, so the Saint-Georges, it's more on the stony side of Nuit Saint-Georges. We have a map behind, it was quite hard to put it on the right way, but we are south of Nuit Saint-Georges, closer to the quarry, so we have sites that have clay and a lot of pebble and rocks. And when the Nuit Saint-Georges gave in, we're a combination of different soils, but soil with a bit more clay, so you have a wine that give a bit more roundness and maybe probably more accessible, but less structure than the Premier Cru. And what do you feel?
So I think particularly the second one, Pinot Noir I think it's the main reason my wife doesn't like it. Sometimes it's got beautiful softness, it's got beautiful freshness, but it can sometimes lack a little bit of depth as a wine. And I think here the fruit just comes through, especially on Premier Cru. There's a richness, and I know it speaks to the area as well, but there is a lovely depth to the wine, and you can feel that it just sits so happily on the palate. You want to be drinking it. It doesn't veer into that sometimes almost slightly cold tea. It's lacking a bit of presence. This drinks beautifully, so I could happily drink that in industrial quantities.
Lucky Hervé is going to bring the industrial quantity of these 2 barrels that we make a
Yes.
year.
This is the last of our wines. We would suggest that we've built up to something of a crescendo. This is the Vougeot, which is very similar to Peugeot, but slightly more expensive. And it is our crowning glory for today. Edouard, talk us through it.
So, as you said, we're finishing with a nice Peugeot. No, it's a Vougeot, Les Petits Vougeot, and we are in Premier Cru land, which is quite unique in Vougeot, which is super famous for the Clos Vougeot, which is an historical monument of Burgundy and one of the biggest single Grand Cru. You have almost 50 hectares of Grand Cru and only 11 of Premier Cru. And the Premier Cru are tucked right on the top of the Grand Cru side, below Musigny and next to Les Amoureuses. So we are really talking about a hidden gem. You don't see much of Vougeot Premier Cru around. Yeah, really happy to share that. I think it has the characteristic of a few Grand Cru. You know, it has the depth, the spice, the power, but also the elegance. We are definitely in a part of the Côte de Nuits that show more muscle, you know, a bit like the French pack.
Going backwards.
And keep our elegance, you know, in the game, even when we lose. Yeah, definitely we are, you know, almost among the Grand Cru, and this wine is showing, I think, like all these attributes. You know, you have the power, the roundness, and it's a wine that you can enjoy now with good company, or in a few years. And I think that's the beauty of Burgundy. You know, we know we make wine to enjoy, but you can also have the same wine in 50 years and have an amazing experience. And I think this is one among the wines that will give you that. So if you can get your hand on a few bottles that Hervé has, you should put them aside and wait for them. Yeah.
Brilliant. Guys, enjoy. A big thank you to Edouard. We managed not to get into a fight over rugby in the end. We did have a fascinating conversation, not just about the wines that the brand is making, but also about Burgundy as a whole and how the family was able to win back that family brand and restore it and now continue this extraordinary legacy of great French wine. A big thank you to Hervé and the team at Premier Cru. I'm drinking great South African wine, finishing off with a little more Backsburg before the day is done. They're getting quite worked up here at Bellinis because on the horizon, I'm told, is the aforementioned Solly Kramer's 90th birthday party, and they're going to be hosting it here. That'll be a huge night and a star-studded one at that. Full of good food and full of good wine, which is exactly what you get when you come through to Bellinis. So thank you to Jenny and Shannon and the team for looking after us. Thank you too to Stellenbosch Wine Routes for hosting me for a really fun and informative night out in Soweto. A lot of great new friends in the wine industry, and I think that is going to direct a lot of the conversations we're having on the show over the next stretch. And a big thank you too to that team at Premier Cru. Some really good Burgundy. That wraps us up for this week. If you haven't been to Bellinis, come on down. Tell them you're a friend of mine, or better yet, tell them you're a friend of Solly's. Enjoy a great meal, a lovely glass of wine. I think you'll discover your new favourite local. Cheers.